The billionaire hadn't spoken a full sentence in 18 months. Not to his doctors, not to his staff, not even to his own family. After the accident that left him confined to a wheelchair, the world seemed to move on without him. His fiancée left. His closest friends stopped calling. Even the relatives who once filled his mansion every weekend suddenly found excuses to stay away. One by one, everyone disappeared. 3 caregivers quit. The 4th lasted less than a week. By the time a 5th nurse was assigned to him, Ryan Carter had already made up his mind. He didn't want help. He didn't want company, and he definitely didn't want another stranger pretending to care. As he sat beside the large window overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Ryan watched the new nurse walk through the front door carrying a small travel bag. She looked young, far too cheerful, far too confident. Ryan almost laughed. Another one, he thought. Let's see how long she lasts. What Ryan didn't know was that this nurse wasn't there by accident. Years earlier, before he became one of America's most successful billionaires, he had unknowingly changed her life forever. And unlike everyone else who had walked away from him, this one wasn't planning to leave. Ryan Carter wasn't always the man sitting silently by the window. There was a time when his name appeared everywhere. Business magazines called him a genius. News stations followed every major decision he made. At 34, he had built one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country. People admired him, investors respected him, and his future seemed limitless. Then, everything changed on a rainy November night. Ryan had been returning from a business meeting when a speeding truck lost control on a highway outside Seattle. The crash was devastating. By the time emergency responders pulled him from the wreckage, his life had already changed forever. He survived, but the injuries to his spine left him unable to walk. The months that followed were worse than the accident itself. At first, everyone promised they would stay by his side. His fiancée told him she loved him. His friends said they would help him through recovery. His relatives assured him he wasn't alone. But promises are easy to make when life is going well. The reality was different. As weeks turned into months, the visits became less frequent. The phone calls stopped coming. His friends got busy with their own lives. His relatives suddenly had other priorities. Even his fiancée, the woman he had planned to marry, eventually sat beside his hospital bed and told him she couldn't do it anymore. She said she still cared about him, but she wasn't strong enough for the life ahead. A week later, she was gone. Ryan never begged her to stay. He simply watched her walk away, just like everyone else. Something inside him broke that day. Not his body, his spirit. After returning to his mansion, Ryan stopped fighting. He ignored messages from his company, refused invitations from friends, and canceled therapy appointments whenever he could. The doctors told him recovery would take effort. Ryan didn't see the point. Why fight for a future he no longer wanted? Most mornings, he sat in the same chair near the window overlooking the ocean. Sometimes for hours, sometimes for the entire day. The house staff moved quietly around him. Nobody knew what to say anymore. Every attempt to encourage him ended the same way, with Ryan pushing them away. The caregivers hired to help him never lasted long. Some left after being ignored. Others left after being insulted. Ryan had become an expert at making people uncomfortable. If someone showed kindness, he rejected it. If someone offered hope, he mocked it. If someone tried to help, he made them regret trying. Deep down, he believed everyone left eventually, so he preferred to push them away before they had the chance. That morning was no different. Rain tapped softly against the enormous windows. Ryan stared at the gray ocean without really seeing it. Then, a voice interrupted the silence. "Mr. Carter." It was Margaret, the house manager. Ryan didn't answer. "Your new nurse will be arriving this afternoon." Still, no response. Margaret sighed. She had been working for Ryan's family for nearly 20 years. She remembered the ambitious young man who used to fill the house with energy and laughter. The man sitting by the window barely resembled him anymore. After waiting a few seconds, she turned to leave. Then, Ryan finally spoke. His voice was cold and rough from lack of use. "How long did the last one last?" Margaret hesitated. 6 days. A faint smile appeared on Ryan's face. Not a happy smile, a bitter one. "Then this one probably won't make it past 5. Margaret shook her head and walked away. But Ryan continued staring out the window, certain of one thing. Whoever this new nurse was, she would leave just like everyone else. The following afternoon, Ryan was sitting in his usual spot by the window when he heard the front door open. He didn't bother turning around. He already knew who it was. Another nurse, another stranger, another person who would eventually give up on him. A few moments later, footsteps echoed through the hallway. Confident footsteps. Not rushed, not nervous. Ryan frowned slightly. Most new caregivers entered the house quietly, as if they were afraid of disturbing him. This one sounded completely different. The footsteps stopped just behind him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, a cheerful voice broke the silence. "Good afternoon, Mr. Carter." Ryan continued staring out the window. No response. The woman waited. Still nothing. Finally, she said, "Well, this is awkward." Ryan slowly turned his wheelchair. Standing in front of him was a young woman with bright eyes and a calm smile. She couldn't have been older than 28. She carried a small backpack over one shoulder and a folder under her arm. Unlike the previous nurses, she didn't look intimidated, not even a little. "I'm Lily Parker," she said. "Your new nurse." Ryan looked her up and down. Then he turned back toward the window. "Congratulations." Lily blinked. "Congratulations? You've officially taken the worst job in America." To his surprise, she laughed. Actually laughed. Not the nervous laugh people gave when they didn't know how to respond. A real laugh. Ryan frowned. Most people became uncomfortable around him. This woman seemed amused. "That's okay," Lily said. "I've had worse." Ryan doubted that. For the next few minutes, Lily walked around the room, introducing herself as if she were meeting a normal patient. Ryan ignored almost everything she said. Eventually, she opened the folder containing his medical records. "Looks like we're scheduled for physical therapy tomorrow morning." "No." Lily glanced up. "No? No therapy. Why not?" Ryan gave her a look that usually ended conversations. "Because I said so." "Oh." She nodded thoughtfully. Ryan expected an argument. Instead, she closed the folder. For a moment, he thought she had given up. Then, she smiled. "That's fine." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Fine?" "Sure. We can start the day after tomorrow." Ryan stared at her. For the first time, someone had responded to his refusal without becoming frustrated. It was unexpected and slightly annoying. The rest of the afternoon continued much the same way. Ryan ignored her. Lily kept talking. Ryan answered with one-word responses. Lily acted as if they were having a wonderful conversation. By dinner time, Ryan was already exhausted. Not because of physical pain, but because of her. When a staff member brought his meal, Ryan pushed the plate away. "I'm not hungry." The employee hesitated before looking at Lily. Every caregiver before her had reacted differently. Some begged, some argued, some gave up. Lily simply picked up a chair and sat beside him. Ryan narrowed his eyes. "What are you doing?" "Waiting." "For what?" "For you to eat." "I'm not eating." "That's okay." She folded her arms comfortably. "I've got time." 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 15. Ryan finally turned toward her. "You're serious." "Very." "You're stubborn." Lily smiled. So I've been told. For the first time in months, Ryan found himself fighting the urge to laugh. Not because something was funny, but because this woman was completely ridiculous. Eventually, mostly to make her stop staring at him, he picked up his fork and took a bite. Lily immediately stood up. Great. See you tomorrow. Ryan watched her walk away, confused. She hadn't celebrated, hadn't praised him, and hadn't treated him like a child. She had simply expected him to do it. And somehow, that bothered him more than anything. Later that night, as Ryan sat alone in his room, he found himself thinking about the new nurse. Most people spent their first day trying to earn his approval. Lily hadn't seemed interested in his approval at all. Which meant only one thing: tomorrow, he would have to work much harder if he wanted to make her quit. The next morning, Ryan woke up with a plan. For the first time in months, he had actually spent part of the night thinking about someone other than himself. Unfortunately for Lily Parker, that someone was her. As sunlight filtered through the large windows of the mansion, Ryan sat in his wheelchair waiting. If she thought she could handle him, she was about to learn otherwise. At exactly 9 o'clock, Lily walked into his room carrying a tablet and a cup of coffee. "Good morning, Ryan." Ryan immediately frowned. "Don't call me Ryan." "Okay, Mr. Sunshine." Ryan looked at her in disbelief. For a moment, he wasn't sure whether she was joking. The problem was that she looked completely serious. Lily placed the coffee on the table beside him. "I brought you coffee." "I didn't ask for coffee." "I know." "Then why did you bring it?" "Because you're grumpy enough already." Ryan stared at her. Lily smiled sweetly. Somehow, that made it worse. A few minutes later, she checked her watch. "Physical therapy starts in 30 minutes. "No." Lily looked up. "No? No therapy." "Why not?" "Because I don't feel like it." She nodded thoughtfully. "That's not a medical reason." "It's my reason." "Well, unfortunately for you, I'm not accepting it." Ryan folded his arms. Lily folded hers. The two of them sat there staring at each other, neither willing to back down. Eventually, Ryan turned away first. Not because he had lost, at least, that's what he told himself. When therapy time arrived, Ryan refused to leave his room. He expected Lily to argue. Instead, she pulled out a novel and sat quietly in a nearby chair. 5 minutes passed, then 15, then 30. Finally, Ryan couldn't take it anymore. "Aren't you supposed to be doing something?" "I am." "What?" "Waiting for my patient." Ryan groaned. This woman was impossible. Over the next several days, Ryan tried everything he could think of. He ignored her questions, she kept talking. He answered with one-word responses, she continued the conversation anyway. He complained about the food, she told him to cook his own meals. He criticized her methods, she thanked him for the feedback. Nothing seemed to bother her. One afternoon, while Lily was organizing therapy documents in the living room, Ryan deliberately knocked a stack of papers off the table. Sheets scattered across the floor. Lily looked at the mess. Then she looked at him. "You did that on purpose." "So what if I did?" "Then you can pick them up." Ryan laughed. "I'm in a wheelchair." "Your legs don't work." She pointed at his hands. "Those still seem fine." Ryan opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. A few minutes later, he found himself collecting papers from the floor while Lily watched with obvious satisfaction. "I don't like you," Ryan muttered. "That's okay." "Why?" "Because you're still doing the exercises." Ryan froze. He hadn't even realized it. The papers had forced him to stretch, reach, and move more than he normally did. Lily had tricked him again. As the days passed, something inside the mansion slowly began to change. The silence wasn't as heavy anymore. Ryan still complained, still argued, and still tried to push Lily away. But somehow, their arguments no longer felt hostile. They felt familiar. And although Ryan would never admit it out loud, he found himself listening for her footsteps every morning. Because for the first time since the accident, there was someone in the house who refused to treat him like a lost cause. And that confused him more than anything. By the second week, Ryan had reached a frustrating conclusion: Lily Parker wasn't leaving. No matter what he said, no matter what he did, she kept showing up every morning with that same calm smile, as if his bad attitude meant absolutely nothing to her. And for some reason, that bothered him. One afternoon, Lily was helping him through a therapy session in the mansion's private gym. Ryan had been making progress, though he hated admitting it. His arms were stronger. His posture had improved. Even his doctors had noticed a difference. But that day, everything seemed to go wrong. He struggled through a simple exercise. His muscles refused to cooperate. The frustration built with every passing minute. Finally, Ryan slammed his hand against the armrest of his wheelchair. "I'm done." Lily looked up. "We've only been here 20 minutes. I said I'm done." She sighed. "Ryan, don't." The sharpness in his voice stopped her. The room fell silent. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then, Ryan laughed bitterly. "You know what's funny?" Lily didn't answer. "Everybody keeps pretending this is going somewhere." He gestured toward the therapy equipment. "This, his wheelchair, his life. None of it matters." "That's not true." "It is true." His voice rose. "I'll never be the man I used to be." Lily remained quiet. Ryan shook his head. "And honestly, I don't even know why you're still here." The words hung in the air. Lily slowly set down the clipboard she was holding. "What does that mean?" Ryan looked away. "It means exactly what you think it means." "No, Ryan." "Say it." His jaw tightened. "You want me to say it?" "Yes." Ryan turned toward her. For the first time since she'd arrived, there was genuine anger in his eyes. "Maybe you're here because of the money." The room became completely silent. "Maybe you're just better at hiding it than everyone else." Lily stared at him. Ryan continued, "People see a billionaire and suddenly they become very interested." His voice was cold now. "Maybe you're hoping I'll reward your loyalty. Maybe you're waiting for some big paycheck." The second the words left his mouth, Ryan knew he'd gone too far. For the first time, the smile disappeared from Lily's face. Not because she was hurt, but because she was angry. Real anger. The kind that had been building for weeks. She took a step closer. "Do you really think that's why I'm here?" Ryan didn't answer. Lily folded her arms. "You want to know the truth?" The room was so quiet that Ryan could hear the rain tapping against the windows. "When I was 16 years old, my mother got sick." Ryan frowned slightly. Lily continued, "We didn't have insurance." Her voice softened. "The doctor said she needed emergency surgery." She swallowed. "We couldn't afford it." Ryan listened without interrupting. "For weeks, we thought we were going to lose her." Lily looked directly into his eyes. "Then, a charity foundation stepped in and paid every hospital bill." Ryan remained silent. "The foundation belonged to you." His expression changed only slightly, but enough. "You didn't know us." Lily shook her head. "You never met us." She took a slow breath. "But because of that donation, my mother survived." Ryan stared at her. For the first time since she'd arrived, he had absolutely nothing to say. Lily's eyes glistened. "Because my mother lived, I finished school." She pointed to herself. "I became a nurse." Then she pointed at him. "And the man who made all of that possible is sitting here acting like his life has no value." Ryan looked down. Lily's voice became firmer. "I'm not here because you're rich." She took another step forward. I'm here because years ago, you helped my family when nobody else would. The gym fell silent again. Ryan could barely look at her. All this time, he had been convinced that everyone around him wanted something from him. But Lily had never asked for anything, not once. She hadn't come for money. She hadn't come for fame. She hadn't come for favors. She came because she remembered an act of kindness he had forgotten. Lily picked up her clipboard. Before leaving the room, she stopped beside him. Then, she quietly said, "You spent years helping strangers, Ryan." She looked at him one last time. "I just don't think someone like that deserves to give up on himself." And for the first time since the accident, Ryan found himself unable to argue, because deep down, he knew she was right. After Lily left the gym, Ryan remained where he was. The room felt unusually quiet. For several minutes, he simply stared at the floor. Her words kept replaying in his mind, "You helped my family. You don't deserve to give up on yourself." No one had spoken to him like that in a long time. Most people either pitied him or avoided difficult conversations altogether. But Lily had done neither. She had challenged him, and somehow, that treasured challenge bothered him less than it should have. Later that evening, Ryan wheeled himself into the kitchen for a glass of water. To his surprise, he found Lily sitting at the counter eating a sandwich. She looked up. "Look who finally decided to leave his room." Ryan rolled his eyes. "Don't make a big deal out of it." "I wasn't going to." "Good." A small smile appeared on Lily's face. "You know, for someone who claims not to like me, you spend a lot of time talking to me." Ryan almost responded with another sarcastic remark. Almost. Instead, he found himself smiling, just a little. It happened so quickly that he wasn't even sure Lily noticed, but she did. Her eyes widened slightly. "There it is." Ryan frowned. "What?" "Your first real smile." Immediately, Ryan looked away. "I have smiled before." "No." Lily shook her head. "You've smirked. You've glared. You've looked annoyed." She pointed at him. "That was an actual smile." Ryan felt strangely embarrassed. Lily laughed softly, and to his surprise, he didn't mind the sound. For the first time since the accident, the mansion didn't feel quite so empty. And for the first time in a very long time, Ryan went to bed thinking about tomorrow instead of yesterday. The next few weeks brought changes that even Ryan couldn't ignore. They weren't dramatic changes, there were no miracles, no sudden recoveries, just small victories. And somehow, those small victories began to add up. For the first time in months, Ryan stopped skipping therapy sessions. Some days were easier than others. Some days he became frustrated and wanted to quit, but Lily never let him. Whenever he complained, she reminded him how far he had already come. And whenever he doubted himself, she reminded him why he started. Slowly, the walls Ryan had built around himself began to come down. The mansion no longer felt silent. Laughter could sometimes be heard from the gym during therapy. The house staff even noticed the difference. One afternoon, Ryan caught himself telling Lily a story about his college years. Halfway through, he stopped. "What?" Lily asked. Ryan shook his head. "Nothing." "You were smiling again." Ryan groaned. "There you go, making a big deal out of it." "Because it is a big deal." Lily smiled. "A few weeks ago, you barely spoke." Ryan couldn't argue with that. She was right. For the first time since the accident, he wasn't just existing, he was living. And although he didn't say it out loud, Ryan knew one thing: none of it would have happened without Lily. She had walked into his life when everyone else walked away. And somehow, without him realizing it, she had become the part of his day he looked forward to most. Not every day was a good day. For every small victory Ryan achieved, there were moments that reminded him how far he still had to go. One morning, Lily arrived at the therapy room to find him unusually quiet. "Everything okay?" she asked. Ryan nodded, but she could tell he was lying. That day's session started well enough. Then came an exercise Ryan had been struggling with for weeks. He tried once, failed, tried again, failed again. The third attempt was even worse. Frustration quickly turned into anger. Ryan slammed his hand against the armrest of his wheelchair. "I'm done." Lily remained calm. "Ryan, I said I'm done." He looked away. "I'm tired of trying." The room fell silent. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Lily walked over and knelt beside him. "Do you remember the day I arrived here?" Ryan frowned. "What about it?" "You wouldn't even leave your room." She smiled softly. "You barely spoke to anyone." Ryan looked down. "You've come a long way since then." "It doesn't feel like it." "That's because you're only looking at how far you have left to go." Ryan didn't answer. Lily placed a hand on his shoulder. "Look at how far you've already come." For several seconds, Ryan sat quietly. Then, he took a deep breath. Another one, and another. Finally, he looked at the equipment in front of him. "One more try." Lily smiled. "One more try." And for the rest of the afternoon, Ryan kept going. Not because it was easy, but because for the first time, he believed quitting would hurt more than trying. As they finished the session, Lily couldn't hide her smile. Ryan was exhausted, but he had pushed through, and sometimes that was the biggest victory of all. A few weeks after his hardest therapy session, Ryan found himself standing between the parallel bars in the rehabilitation room. His hands gripped the rails tightly, his heart pounded. Lily stood nearby, watching carefully. "You don't have to rush," she said. Ryan nodded, but he knew this moment mattered. For months, he had worked toward this. Months of therapy, months of frustration, months of refusing to quit. Slowly, Ryan shifted his weight forward. His legs trembled. For a second, he thought he might fall. Instinctively, Lily stepped closer, but Ryan shook his head. "I've got it." Lily stopped and watched. Ryan took a deep breath, then another, and finally, he moved one foot forward, a single step. Small, unsteady, but real. His eyes widened. For a moment, he couldn't believe it. Then came a second step, and a third. Not perfect, not easy, but enough. Ryan stopped and looked at Lily. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them needed to. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Ryan felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time, hope. Real hope. A smile spread across his face. This time, he didn't try to hide it. "Did you see that?" he asked. Lily laughed through her tears. "I think the whole house heard it." For the first time since the accident, Ryan wasn't thinking about what he had lost. He was thinking about what was still possible. And standing there with Lily beside him, he realized that his life wasn't ending, it was beginning again. A few days after taking his first steps, Ryan noticed something different about Lily. She seemed distracted. Not unhappy, just thoughtful. At first, he ignored it, but eventually, his curiosity got the better of him. One afternoon, while they were sitting on the mansion's terrace overlooking the ocean, Ryan finally asked, "Is something wrong?" Lily hesitated. Then she smiled. "No, nothing's wrong." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You're a terrible liar." Lily laughed softly. "Maybe." For a moment, she stared out at the water. Then she took a deep breath. "My contract ends next month." Ryan froze. The words hit him harder than he expected. "Oh." That was all he managed to say. Lily looked at him. "You knew this day would come." He did. Of course he did. But somehow, he had never really thought about it. Over the past few months, Lily had become such a big part of his life that he couldn't imagine the mansion without her. The silence felt strange. Finally, Lily smiled. "Look at you." "What?" A few months ago, you couldn't wait to get rid of me. Ryan laughed. That's because you were annoying. Was? She pretended to be offended. Ryan shook his head, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. The conversation moved on, but the thought stayed with him. That night, Ryan sat by the window where he had once spent endless hours feeling sorry for himself. Only now, everything was different. The ocean looked the same. The room looked the same. But he wasn't the same man anymore. And for the first time, the idea of Lily leaving scared him. Not because he needed a nurse, not because he needed help, but because somewhere along the way, she had become the person he looked forward to seeing every day. The person who had brought laughter back into his home, the person who had taught him how to hope again. And deep down, Ryan was beginning to realize something: he didn't want Lily to leave. Not now. Maybe not ever. The day Lily's contract ended arrived faster than Ryan expected. That morning, the mansion felt different. Too quiet, too empty. As he walked slowly through the hallway with the help of a cane, he found Lily in the living room, placing the last of her things into a small travel bag. She looked up and smiled. "Well, Mr. Carter, looks like this is goodbye." Ryan tried to smile back, but the words wouldn't come. For months, he had prepared himself for this moment. Yet, now that it was here, he realized he wasn't ready, not even close. Lily zipped her bag and looked around the room. "I'm really proud of you, you know." Ryan swallowed. "You are?" "Of course." She smiled. "When I first arrived, you barely spoke." Ryan laughed softly. "And now?" "Now you won't stop talking." They both laughed, but when the laughter faded, neither of them moved. The silence between them felt different this time, heavier, more important. Finally, Ryan took a deep breath. "Lily." The sound of her name made her look up. Ryan's heart pounded. He had faced investors, competitors, and business deals worth billions of dollars. None of those moments felt as difficult as this one. "You said something to me the day we met." Lily tilted her head. "I've said a lot of things." Ryan smiled. "You said you weren't going anywhere." A gentle smile appeared on her face. "I remember." Ryan looked into her eyes. "Turns out, I don't want you to." For a moment, Lily simply stared at him. Not speaking, not moving. Ryan took another step forward. "When everyone else walked away, you stayed." His voice softened. "You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Lily's eyes began to fill with tears. Ryan smiled. "You helped me walk again." He paused. "But more than that, you gave me a reason to live again." The room fell silent. Then, Ryan said the words he had been carrying in his heart for weeks. "I love you, Lily." A tear rolled down her cheek. "And I don't want you to stay as my nurse." He reached for her hand. "I want you to stay as the woman I love." For a second, neither of them moved. Then, Lily laughed through her tears, the kind of laugh that comes when happiness finally catches up with you. "I was wondering how long it would take you." Ryan blinked. "What?" Lily smiled. "Ryan Carter, I fell in love with you months ago." Before he could respond, she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. Ryan held her tightly, and for the first time since the accident, he felt completely whole. Months later, guests gathered at a charity event hosted by the Carter Foundation. Many of them watched in amazement as Ryan walked across the stage on his own, slowly, confidently, with Lily by his side. The same foundation that had once saved her mother's life was now helping thousands of other families. As Ryan looked at the woman beside him, he realized something. The greatest thing he had ever built wasn't a billion-dollar company. It wasn't his fortune. It wasn't his success. It was the life he almost gave up on, and the woman who had helped him find it again. Together, they stepped forward into a future neither of them had expected, a future filled with hope, with love, and with second chances. "Before you go, I have something special to share with you." If you enjoyed this story, I recently wrote my very first ebook featuring 5 emotional billionaire love stories, each with its own unforgettable journey, heartwarming romance, and beautiful happy ending. These are exclusive stories you can read anytime, anywhere, and I poured a lot of love and effort into creating them. If you'd like to check them out, I've placed the link in the description below. And if you enjoyed today's story, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming billionaire romance stories. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.